that, you see, I'm not on schedule at the moment. I got no idea what's happening when. Hello and welcome to Knit with Hannah. I'm Hannah, I'm a knitting natter to help you knit with ease, confidence and joy. We're doing something special today, and that is saying no to a current object. It's a project that I've had on my needles, and I've realised I'm at a point where I can't finish it because I'm not going to have enough yarn. And actually, I've also got to a point where I've said I'm not sure I actually want to finish it because I don't know why I would want it when it is finished. I was considering using this maybe as a knit along or something like that, and it just went on my needles in January when I wasn't thinking about what I would knit or what I wouldn't knit, and whether I would knit anything at that moment as well. And I suppose it was an experiment. We're allowed to experiment as knitters, and the yarn can go straight back on these fascinating balls of yarn that are pretty much of a mess anyway, and I can knit with it again. So that's what I'm wanting to do. Before anything, I will just show you it. The members in the YouTube membership have seen this already because I was talking about it in one of the first videos I did, actually, back in July, I'm guessing. Yeah, probably July. I was sharing all the current projects that are on my needles. So yeah, this is one of them, and the choice is made to unravel. So I'm going to show you how I do that today, and it's quite interesting because I have more than one colour on my needle. So I've got actually 3 balls of yarn that I'm knitting from. And how do we do that? So that is the task for today. I'm going to move to overhead camera so you can see that much more easily. Okay, let's just take a closer look at what we're dealing with here. We have a full yarn needle of knitting. There is one ball of yarn coming from that piece there. Now we've got to figure out which ball of yarn that is. That would be a good idea. This is what I would suggest first of all, is just making sure it's neat and you can figure out what's coming from where. And obviously if it's one ball of yarn and you're just knitting something that's plain, then it does make it easier. Just for the sake of ease, I'm going to wrap this up and unknot it. Feel free to watch while I'm doing this. I will put it on fast forward probably. It really is about taking it slowly, just gently letting it loosen and open up. There we are, that's the first one. I'm hoping the others won't be quite so complex. So that's the first one, and I know that ball of yarn is going to this side of the knitting. Now, the rest of this knitting has the 2 strands coming on this side, because that's the knitted side. That's where I would be knitting from next. I just need to unravel this. Again, it's just a case of loosening it, one piece at a time, and then moving it through the different loops. This is because it's been sat in a little bag. Over time, it's just got a bit warped and confused. So I now have this ball of yarn going there, this ball of yarn, and this ball of yarn going to this end. So the first job is going to be very simply to take the needle out of the stitches. Because it's been sat, it wouldn't surprise me if the stitches feel a bit tight because they've just sagged on the cable. I was hoping to do this months ago. I'm wondering whether the yarn is going to be warped a bit and wriggled. There we go. The needle can now just be put away. I've used that so many times in the past already. That'll be definitely one I pick up again. So we're starting from this end. I'm going to do this. Would you believe? I'm just going to go for a few rows like that. Then this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Just across. And I will do this one for a few rows at this end. And then I will unravel it through the orange. And it can, because if you've been watching my intarsia videos, you will know that just twisting the yarn when you start new rows when you're changing colour is what helps the knitting stay together. It doesn't get lost and separated. Otherwise it just literally looks like two columns of knitting sat next to each other, but they're separated, and then once you take it off the needles and you cast off, it's not really held at all in one place. So there we are. I'll do the same thing at this end. Once I get there, I just take that out there. I'll wind up this orange so far as I've got. It is a bit wriggly. Beige. This is called, oh crikey, what's it called? It's something to do with wolves. Honestly, it seems like an odd colour, but to me it's mushroom. That's what I will call it. This is Shiny Happy Cotton yarn. And I was actually starting to knit the squares blanket, which is, I think the pattern, yes, I know the pattern is over on my website. It's got, obviously you can see it's got squares on it. And as you unravel, don't let it get too far before you wind it around the current ball, because that is very likely to start getting itself in little knots. And this is how I'm going to continue all the way through, just doing a couple of rows at a time, doing the ends to start with, and then the end bits of the rows here, of the orange, and then just winding it through the edges. And then the option of unraveling a lot more all the way through the centre is open. This is a very practical morning for me. Okay, it's time for some more winding. What I'm going to do is just unravel the few rows here at the edge, and that will start each row, but it's not going to mean that the yarn is running away and getting knotted. But it does mean I can unravel this edge a little bit more and pull the yarn through the orange. It'll be a lot easier to unravel the orange once I've done that. Okay. I think that's enough on that end. We can go back once I've wrapped this up. Go back to this end and I will do the same thing that I've just done. I will repeat it. So, I mean, there isn't that much yarn here. I will just say the option is always there with this kind of thing to just cast off and use what you've knitted for something else. I'm not sure what this could be used for, or you could say, okay, I'm abandoning all 3 rows, 3 colours, and I'll just knit until I've finished the orange all the way across it and then cast off, and then that thing could be used. But there is no rule that says you have to unravel. There is also no rule that says you cannot put this in the bin. You can cut the yarn and you could chuck it in the bin if you want to. This, what I'm knitting with here, is biodegradable. It's cotton, so it's not going to be a major disaster to the world's landfill sites if it does go in the bin. I think we need to allow ourselves that sometimes. It feels, oh no, I'm not being sustainable. Oh no, I'm ruining the planet. Are you really? It's, I know everything adds up, but there's also a world where we say we're allowed to discard stuff that we don't want. And there is also an option to say to a friend, would you like to finish knitting this? Because that is an option too. If you know that a friend of yours wants to knit a baby blanket and you're halfway through one, do you want to finish knitting this one? That is an option as well. So do let yourself off the hook. You do not have to unravel and reuse the yarn. The rules are not written for knitters in stone. This is an option. Okay, right. We can do more unraveling of the orange. And again, I will do 1 row and then come back on the other row and then wind it around. Now, actually, this wiggle on the yarn is actually quite fun. This would be brilliant for making pom-poms or tassels or something like that, that can actually utilize, or even hair for a doll. Just imagine having curly hair on a doll made from this yarn once it's been knitted and then unravelled. Wouldn't that be cute? So we can embrace what feels like a bit of a disaster if we want to. And this is perfectly knittable as well. Okay, we're back to the edges. I will do this edge. If you're wondering what this is, it's lavender. I have a jug of lavender right by the table here, and it's from last year's. It's last year's lavender, so it's molting a bit. I don't want to let go of it. It smells beautiful. It doesn't look too bad either. It's all dried, you can tell. Now the interesting thing with this kind of project, I am unraveling a project today, and that is my task for this morning. It's about just accepting that at this point I won't be knitting, I'm doing something else. It's very yarn based, and in many ways it's going to introduce more yarn. Oh dear, what's happened? There you are. More yarn to my knitting in the future, but it's just in some ways I can remember doing this feeling, oh god, I can't be knitting, it's not fair, I wish I was knitting instead of doing this. There is that kind of feeling to it. I've definitely felt that in the past when I've been unraveling a project. And also I've given this time, so I don't feel guilty about all the time I've put into knitting the stitches that I'm now unraveling. And I feel okay about it. And there's none of this, oh, crikey, look at all of that time I put into knitting, what a waste. I don't feel that anymore because I've given it enough time to now be more than perfectly happy with the fact that this is now going to be new knitting yarn, or second-hand, shall we say, knitting yarn. Look at that. I think, there we are. I've reached the bottom border on this side, so that's good, a good omen for the orange. Let me see if I can do the same thing on this side. Actually, look, I'm not very far away. I thought I had tons to do. That's exciting. I would just unravel that one more little bit there, and I have a feeling I could then very possibly actually move this aside because I won't be relevant anymore. There it is. Boom, sorted. That's the bottom of that. So I now have one ball unravelled, one ball that is now going to be unravelling the border, and this orange is still to go. It's working all right. That is the last of the orange. Look at that. Boom. Now I just need to unravel this, and this one is actually going to be very easy because there's no other colours interfering. I'm only dealing with that. Again, I will unravel a few rows at a time. In some ways, I wonder, it might be easier to, there we go, I reckon that will be easy. All I have to do is hold that in my hand like that. That was a very quick inspiration. I'm just going to sit here and do this a few times and then re-roll it onto the ball. And then do the same thing over and over again. There we go. I'm almost done. And it's just that little bit of cast off left. Can you see that? And it's coming apart so easily. And the whole of this border has come apart so easily. It's a knit stitch, it's another knit stitch, it's another knit stitch, it's another knit stitch. And I tell you what is a bonus with this. You may find this easy. Well, I'm finding it easy with a cotton yarn. If you've left wool yarn knitted up for a while in a project and you want to unravel it, the little fibres of the wool, let me see if I can find some more. There we are. the little fibres of the wool you see on knitting yarn, some of them can actually end up being quite long, unbelievably. They hold the stitches together, which is why it's so good for a project like this with the colour work. The stitches hold each other together, so the stitches and the shapes that you're creating, they're not going anywhere, they're not loosening up or changing. So when you're unraveling something like this, it can feel sometimes that the stitches are stuck. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're looking at unraveling a wool project rather than a cotton project, the same will go for acrylic. Not quite so much as wool, but sometimes acrylic can feel like the stitches are stuck and almost knotted. So you have to be careful. And this is where the stitches and the yarn, can stretch. If you're unraveling wool, it can be very tempting to just pull at it. So the yarn can stretch, and then when you roll it up on a ball and you're not able to use it again because you end up basically with stretched yarn. My grandma had the opposite problem. She would unravel something and then wind it into a ball to try and get rid of the waves from the stitches, which meant that the balls of yarn that she had that were unravelled from other projects were wound so tightly the yarn was stretched and it had no bounce left in it. It just wasn't usable anymore. So it was used for other kinds of projects. But there you go. That's my final yarn. Okay, I have my 3 balls of yarn, as you've just seen, and that's a good job. I will sit down and very likely re-roll this yarn, simply because I know it's quite a bit of a mess inside what I've just unravelled. So I want usable yarn. I also want yarn that I can use from the inside, rather than having it roll all over the place when I'm knitting with it next. So that will be a great project. I will do that this afternoon, very likely. It's definitely going to be a warm day. I'm filming in July, as I said. So this, actually, I was chatting while I was doing that, and it ended up being a really long video. So what I have done is given the YouTube members the longer version. If you want to see that, then do go and join the YouTube membership at any point if you want to, and you'll be able to see that. Big thank you to them. They're supporting the channel in a slightly different way. You're obviously getting this extra video, but if you're in the YouTube membership, there's 2 videos a month, including a Q&A. So if you have any questions every month, then that's the place to go and actually ask them. I actually create a video with questions, specifically for patterns and projects that you might have a problem with. If you're in the membership, you can go and fill out a form and share a photograph on what you're knitting currently, and whether you have a problem, you can ask me very specifically what's going wrong or what you need help with reading a pattern or something. Then that's an option. Also, I will just pick questions that have appeared in YouTube comments, or even just randomly in an email or something, because sometimes the questions that people ask me as a knitter are fascinating, and it can be really helpful to just utilise those questions and share the answers with you as well. So that all happens inside the membership. Do go and join that if you want to. And yeah, this pattern I was knitting is the Squares baby blanket. That pattern, if you want it, knitted with Shiny Happy Cotton from Wool and the Gang, that pattern is over there on the website. You could also get a group of all of the baby patterns as well, if you'd like that instead. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. I will see you again soon. I'm not sure when this is going out, so I can't really tell you what we're doing right now. We may be in the knit along. If we're not in the knit along yet, then keep an eye out. It's happening soon. I'm not on schedule at the moment. I got no idea what's happening when. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye for now. Happy knitting and happy unravelling if that's what you're doing today.